Hi everybody. Today the question that I'm answering is how to avoid shutting out siblings you may not like or resent when you have to come back together to care for elderly parents. How many of you are caring for a brother or a sister that you deeply dislike or resent? Sibling with whom you may not share the same values, maybe different temperaments or moods, maybe a sister or a brother who is a drama queen or king, or maybe your brother or sister doesn't show emotions that you would like to see. Maybe they like to be in control, maybe they have more education, more money, they're living a better lifestyle, and there's a lot of just disagreements there. The list of reasons for why we may not like or may not get along with a sibling can be a very long list. The feelings, though, that we have toward a sibling, or really anybody else, can create a mindset and a belief system that we have that can really take on its own life, which can be challenging to change if you want to have a relationship with this person that is workable because you both love your elderly parents. So a few situations. If you're the primary caregiver for an elderly parent, do you feel like your sibling is not helping out and that makes you angry? Or are you the sibling who other siblings don't like because they say you have challenging behaviors? Honestly, siblings can unintentionally annoy each other. Anybody can unintentionally annoy each other if we don't understand what actions or behaviors are upsetting or annoying, and especially if we don't say, gosh, when you do that, that just drives me crazy. Now, that may let another person know what to do to annoy you, but in most cases, hopefully, that would not happen. So stay with me for this video while I share background about caregiver-sibling resentment and how you can work with siblings rather than shutting them out of your life or shutting them out of the life of an elderly parent or putting all of your sibling problems on an elderly parent when it's really not theirs to deal with. Most importantly, you don't want to make the fact that you don't get along with a sibling your elderly parents' problems. By now, you're an adult. You can figure it out. Instead of burdening your parent or putting them in the middle of a sibling battle, you can figure it out by staying with me all the way to the end of this video, while I share some ways that you can deal with challenging siblings instead of shutting them out, instead of putting all this on your parents. Now, I will say that sometimes, if the issues are long-standing and deep, it can take a counselor or a caregiving expert like me to work with families to work through these issues. If that is something that you're interested in, by the time you get to the end of this video, there's a link below. You can schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. You can also go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on Services and Elder Care Consultant, and fill out the form there. If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Pamela D Wilson, a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker with 25 years of experience, helping family caregivers and older adults work through all of these struggles: health, financial, legal aspects, navigating family relationships. I also serve as an expert witness for law firms in matters of litigation, for guardianship, conservatorship, power of attorney, care management, home care agencies, all of that. Again, links are below. Please do take a moment, like this video, follow the channel, comment, even if it's only to say thanks. You're welcome to share a comment, give me ideas for future videos. Your participation helps other people find their way here. So, caregiver-sibling resentment. How on earth does it happen? Well, one way it happens is that one adult child is highly involved in caring for an elderly parent, and the other siblings are just like standing by watching and not helping. This lack of involvement by siblings can be very frustrating for this primary caregiver who's probably spending a lot of time and is super stressed out about caring for mom and dad. Now, if you're the uninvolved caregiver and your sibling is the primary caregiver and you don't get involved, you really don't have a foundation to complain in the future if that sibling did something that you didn't like. If you didn't like how care was provided, or you didn't like how your parents' money was spent on care, it's going to be a little too late to go back and say, hey, I can't believe you did that. This is why managing these sibling relationships is important today. So when somebody in your family who you believe should be helpful, or a sibling does something that you do not like or that hurts your feelings, this is where the bad feelings come in, right? You can feel unimportant, betrayed, angry, or resentful. Maybe your elderly parent has criticized you all of your life. Maybe you think your sibling has done something that is just unforgivable. Maybe you have a sibling who has behaviors that just honestly irritate you and you don't want to have anything to do with them. This is pretty common. But what happens is then caregiver, sibling, resentment, and bitterness and wanting to shut out another family member and not talk to them and not deal with them happens. And that's really not helpful when there are multiple siblings caring for an elderly parent, or when, let's say, an elderly parent has remarried and you have step siblings that you don't get along with. All of this can eventually create huge problems that could more easily be solved by making a commitment to work together. So let's say you're the primary caregiver, your siblings are not helping, they have moved on with their life, but every day all you think about is, my brother or my sister who doesn't help, and I hate them and I'm angry with them and I just can't believe they're doing all of this to me. Well, probably they're not doing it to you. They don't even realize what's going on with your life because they're disinterested, right? And so you're letting this anger fester, and it's making you more anxious and frustrated and angry, and it's just building up and building up and building up. Now, think about this. Maybe there's a situation in your life where you've unintentionally done something like this to another person. And there's somebody out there who is like, oh, that person, they took credit for something at work, or they shut me down in a conversation when I was trying to tell them how I felt. I can give you a simple example of a communication glitch that happened years ago in my professional life. Years ago, I had an in-home care agency and I managed caregivers. And they would usually call in the morning if they had a problem or if they were going to be late for a shift or something. So one morning I answered the phone and a caregiver had a question and I responded. And I said, hey, do you have any other questions? And the caregiver responded back and said, oh, you must be busy. And I said something like, yeah, I've been on, one call after another this morning, and, the phone's probably going to ring again in a minute. Well, this caregiver, I could tell by her voice, was a little miffed, but at the moment I just was not going to go into it. Because the call that I got right before the call from that caregiver was the vet calling to tell me that my dog had just died. So I was not in the mood to be my normal chatty self. But I also was not going to share the fact with this caregiver that my dog just died. Why would I burden somebody with that? Her statement about me being busy was more about her wanting more time and more attention for me that I normally would give, but I couldn't give at that moment. So I didn't take her statement personally, I just let it go. If you're in a similar situation, I'll share tips in a moment about things that you can say to let somebody else know that you're not really okay with that conversation. But in this situation and in many others, extend a little grace. Realize that a person may be busy and can't give you the time that you need right now. Give somebody just a little bit of a break. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes other people are going through very difficult things that we may not realize, just as if we're short with somebody else, other people may not realize what we're going through at that moment. So in these interchanges with your siblings, there is this, I call it window of opportunity, this door of opportunity to resolve it. So you might say something like, wow, that statement hurt my feelings. I don't feel good about that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let me think about this and get back to you. That buys you a little bit of time to process your feelings before you might say something that you regret, that causes more difficulty in that relationship. But it is totally okay, and you should respond in a way that lets your sibling or another person know that, hey, I'm not okay with that. I just don't feel good about that. Do not be silent. Calmly respond in that moment. Just let the other person know that, hey, I might want to talk about this in the future because I'm a little upset about it, but I need to think about maybe why I'm upset about it so that I can explain it to you so that it makes sense. This act of speaking up to resolve these disagreements with a sibling or a parent or anybody else, especially when your parents need care, can go a long way because, again, the person who needs the help is your parent. And do you really want to not support your parent because you can't get along with a sibling? Now, I know many siblings who would say, heck yes, I don't like my sibling, I don't care about my sibling, they've done a lot of bad things, I just do not want to get along with them. It happens, I realize it. So the situations are either one sibling's doing all the work, the other siblings are not contributing, or maybe one sibling is in control and they're not allowing other siblings to help out, which could be helpful. Now, why does this happen? Well, there may be trust issues, right? Maybe you've had a sibling who was not always honest or forthcoming with information, so you're like, I don't know if I can trust them. There may be siblings who just don't want to deal with other siblings, and so they just refuse to speak. They shut other people out. That refusal to speak actually can result from your sibling not knowing how to deal with conflict or not knowing how to deal with their emotions. So it's easier just for them to isolate themselves, disappear, not say anything. Honestly, it's a learning opportunity for your sibling if you can get them to talk about this. And again, it may take a third party to help with this. So think about this. Let's say that you are the disagreeable sibling. You're the sibling who wants control of everything and you want to shut your other siblings out because what they think doesn't matter and they only, take more of your time and you just don't like them, right? Well, where does all that come from? Does it come from the fact that when you were younger, there were relationship problems? Maybe mom or dad favored your brother or sister and not you. Maybe there were other things that happened, right? Memories of these parent-child relationships carry with us throughout our lives to the end of life. We remember crazy stuff that could have been resolved earlier, but we didn't probably have the emotional maturity to do it at the time. There are so many reasons for sibling resentment and even parent resentment, right? No family in this whole thing is perfect. And so regardless of the reasons that you want to shut out a sibling or resent a sibling or don't like a sibling, think about your parent. What are you willing to do to manage through a situation where your elderly parents need care? And it would really be nice if there was somebody else who was willing to help. What are you willing to do to find ways to coordinate information with your other siblings, knowing that you both love your parents? Now, the focus here must be on willing to do. What are you willing to do? Some siblings, again, they flat out refuse to communicate. They want to shut other people out. That situation may not be workable or changeable unless you can get your sibling to agree to talk to a third party who can balance out the situation. So it's not like one sibling always complaining about another. So both siblings or multiple siblings feel like they are all heard and their concerns are validated. Sometimes that's what it takes. And as a sibling, you may not be able to do that by yourself. So if you're willing to work with a sibling, first step number one, you got to be willing to forgive. And this means forgive all that stuff from the past. Don't talk about it. Focus on the future. Focus on the fact that this is about your parent. Let go of your resentment, your anger, your other feelings, all that kind of stuff. You have to be able to say, look, I agree to let these feelings go if you agree to let these feelings go. Let's put them aside. Let's only focus on future interactions and things we need to do for mom or dad. Can we both agree that that's what we're going to do? And then the minute a sibling goes to, well, you used to do this and you used to do that, it's like, whoa, remember, we agreed not to talk about that. We agreed to refuse to allow feelings from back there to control feelings in the future. Because you got to realize that your mind, everything that you think about, feeds into your emotions. And that can feed into anxiety and fear and other types of feelings. So you've got to fuel your mind with positive things. Yeah, we had differences in the past, but you know what? Now we're working together. And it's going to be good for everybody. Because taking care of our parents is going to require more than one person to do this. It's not possible for one person to do this. Our parents have a lot of needs. So let go of that resentment and anger. You can choose to do that. Don't let anybody drag you back there. Don't let another sibling say, well, I can't believe that you're deciding to get along with so-and-so, right? You can say, hey, I made the choice. I'm doing it. You can either come along with us or you can, stay out of the party and not help mom or dad. I'd rather that you helped, but if you can't, I get it. So let's say that, let's just do another example, 2 children in the family who have not gotten to this point of we're willing to do this yet. Or you're willing to do it, but you're trying to figure out parameters of how to work within this. So you both go visit your parents, but you'd rather not run into each other, right? So the parameters are, look, I can work with you as long as we, put some parameters around visits and limitations so that right now I don't have to spend a lot of time with you because that's going to be hard for me. I've got to work into this. Well, so what you do is you make a calendar. Hey, I'm going to go visit mom and dad on Saturdays. Your day is Sunday, or you agree that sometimes you need to change your day. That way you're not running into each other at your parents' house, angry that somebody else is there and you have to leave, and you're not showing all of this animosity and anger to your parents because it's not for them to deal with. Why put problems with your siblings on your parents? You're adults. You need to deal with it. You do not need to add additional stress on your parents. Be respectful of your parents by not expecting them to take sides or referee between you. And if your parents are causing the problem, saying, well, your sister or brother does this or doesn't do that, stop that too. Say, hey, mom or dad, I'm getting along with Mary and John. I don't want to hear you talk bad about them. If you want to talk bad about them, let me pick up the phone, I'll dial the number, you can speak to them, and you tell them how you feel. You have to stop this family backtalk. Stop the gossip. It's disrespectful. It's divisive. If you're trying to get your family back together, this cannot be allowed. So, technology today can be pretty cool if you have siblings that you didn't get along with, didn't like, but are now trying to work with. You and a sibling don't have to talk all the time. You update your online calendar. Use it for visiting parents or taking them to doctor appointments or doing project or whatever. Think about your workplace. How often do you honestly have real voice conversations with coworkers or virtual meetings? Maybe you do a lot, maybe you don't do so much. Emailing and texting and online stuff really has replaced, sadly enough, in-person communication and sometimes in-person relationships. Alexa, Siri, they've replaced the need to talk to any human, right? These cloud-based systems generated voices, they're everywhere. You dial a phone and you get this voicemail and it's a computer talking to you. It's not a real person. You ask a question, you get an answer. Now, I will say for some older adults who are isolated, Alexa and Siri can be very good companions, but isn't that a sad state of the world that we have this computer-based thing that becomes our friend? Technology can benefit communication, but in my opinion, it cannot replace human interaction. So if a sibling says, hey, we need to set parameters on in-person contact, agree to that. Figure out how to become connected via technology. Set some ground rules. If technology is going to be the way that you communicate rather than frequent person-to-person, like telephone calls or something like that, what's a ground rule? Well, a ground rule might be you can't text me 10 times a day to ask me a question, or you can't send me 20 emails and expect me to answer right away. I'm too busy, I don't have time. It's only going to raise my stress levels, right? So I will respond within 48 hours. If you email me, I'll check my email on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You're going to have to wait for a response. If it's truly an emergency, you text me and say emergency, but it better be an emergency. It better not be just something that you're stressing out with at this moment that changes my schedule or raises my emotions so that I'm thinking, oh my God, what the heck happened, right? So this frequency and urgency of communication can be a real issue between siblings who have busy lives and busy jobs and all of that kind of stuff, especially if one sibling has more free time. So set reasonable response times. Creating these workable relationships can be work, right? Especially if you haven't seen eye to eye in the past. So just think of your sibling maybe as a boss or a coworker that you don't like, but one whom you must have a relationship with because you like your job. In this situation, taking care of your parents is the job. You love your parents, so you're willing to do things that you might not normally do, put up with some things that you might not normally put up, but you're going to be able to work through those things rather than ignore them. So by using technology and communication tools, you can also agree on information that you want. For example, do you want to know if you live 500 miles away, do you want to know if your elderly parent goes in the hospital or if the dog goes to the vet, right? What do you want to know? So that you can avoid a conversation that says, well, that happened and you didn't tell me. How could you not have told me that? Well, the response is because it wasn't on the list of things you wanted to know. Sometimes you actually have to put stuff in writing and sign agreements so that everybody is perfectly clear on what you're agreeing to. Now realize this, okay? If you're the sibling who has moved away, the sibling who is the day in, day out caregiver who's taken mom to doctor appointments and picking up prescriptions and taking dad here and there is more than likely going to be appointed the medical and financial power of attorney, maybe the trustee of the estate, maybe the executor of the estate. And it's more from a sense of practicality, right? It's hard to do these things if you're not there. You have moved away. So while you might be upset that you feel like your parent is favoring another sibling, the reality is you moved away. Not that you weren't interested or you might not have been a good person to do this, right? But you're not there every day. So if that's the case, it's even more important for you to have a relationship with a sibling that you don't like so that you know what's going on. Because proximity, nearness, and practicality are usually why one sibling becomes a caregiver and the legally responsible party. This causes huge rifts between siblings, I can tell you, because sometimes I testify in court about these issues. Sometimes, many times, I counsel families about these issues, right? So, if you're a caregiver who lives a couple hours away, ask what you can do to help. Whether you do maybe online research on a topic, or maybe you call mom and dad once a week, or you visit every so often so your sibling can have a day off, you have to find a way to be involved. And if your sibling over there who's controlling saying, oh, I don't need help, I can do it all, say, no, 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 no. I would like to be involved. Let's work out a way that I can be involved that we can both agree on. So do not let a sibling shut you out. Because when these types of rifts or resentment happen, the longer that you wait, the less likely it's going to be that you're ever going to be able to work this out, right? It's harder to communicate the longer you're silent, the longer that you shut somebody out. And honestly, it takes a lot of skills to resolve these issues if they have grown and grown and grown and grown and grown over the years. Now, if you have a step family, even more important that you communicate with your step siblings, because again, you may be the caregiver and you may have step siblings who are 500 miles away, or you may be 500 miles away. Your parents remarried. Who's ever closest is doing all the work, knows what's going on, and the last thing you want to do is to be surprised by something that happens. Wow, mom and dad died and I didn't even know they were sick. Now, I know that's extreme, but sometimes it happens, right? If you're not maintaining regular communication. Because honestly, if you don't maintain communication, one day you may get a call saying, hey, my mom died and I've been taking care of your dad for 3 years. I'm kind of done. I'm going to ship him to you and you deal with it, right? That happens too. So the goal is that while, out of sight, out of mind, you're not there doing the day-to-day, can be easy for you, it's not always a good thing. Because family caregiving issues will eventually someday show up on your doorstep. Caregiving issues between families, extremely common. Don't feel like if you don't get along and you don't agree on things, you're a rarity. You're not. It's just the way life is. It's just the way caregiving is, because families don't talk about this. Few parents or adult children can ever predict what is going to happen when elderly parents need care, who's going to be that caregiver, who's going to step in. The most practical thing you can do is have discussions among your siblings about who can provide care and who can offer what, and then transfer these conversations to conversations with your parents. So you're sharing information in a group and you know what your parents want for care and you know what their expectations are. Because if your parents are expecting you to be the caregiver and you haven't had that conversation, at the time that happens, that may shock you, because you're going to be like, well, hey, I got this career going and I'm married and I got 2 kids and I have all this stuff going on. I can't possibly drop my life and help you. I can't fly across the country and help you. Okay? These things happen. Avoiding these family conversations is kind of like having a problem that you just push down the road. Kind of like you don't get along with a sibling and, well, I'm just going to ignore it because why would I ever have to get along with my sibling? The reason is because you have parents to care for and you love them. And you might want to be involved. So eventually, if you kick this can down the road of having family conversations or not trying to resolve issues with a sibling that you don't like or you hate or that you resent, eventually something's going to happen that's going to bring it up, and you will have to figure out how to navigate through it. The timing of these family conversations is especially important if you have rare diseases or Alzheimer's in your family, because Alzheimer's can pass down from generation to generation. So if your grandma or grandpa had memory loss, or an auntie and an uncle have memory loss, it's highly likely that your parents could, or that even you could. So you want to talk about these issues before a parent's memory loss advances, before you end up with Alzheimer's or dementia. In a perfect world, planning 3 to 5 years ahead is a necessity. If you don't know how to do that, I can help, but it's important to think that far ahead. You have to be able to plan for the unexpected, because the unexpected is going to happen. Rather than you being the solution to a parent's problem, needing care, if you have these conversations early, you can come up with other solutions for your parents to have care that may involve you and your siblings a little bit, but that may involve paid family caregivers, or moving to a care community, or other types of services. You can manage this in advance. These situations do not have to happen. So with respect to all of this caregiver, sibling, family, resentment stuff, agree that you're willing to work together. Set some parameters, agree to let go of the past, don't talk about it. Don't let anybody in the family drag you back into these situations that have happened in the past. Find a way to work together, communicate, be transparent, involve your parents, set boundaries, and work it out, because it is possible. It can be done. If you're having problems or you're struggling, you can contact me. Go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on Services and Elder Care Consultation. I would be happy to speak with you. Thank you so much all for being here. Again, please like this video, follow my channel, share these videos, comment even if it's only to say thank you. You can also request a video topic. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in another video. Have a fabulous day today.